Hi, Pastor Ben.
Hey, John, how are you?
It's good seeing you.
Good to be with you.
Pastor Ben, I've known you for a long time. You've been my mentor for a long time. I'm so thankful that we could do this interview together. We're here in your office, and I see a lot of Monkees kind of gear and pictures here. I know about that passion of yours. Why don't you let the people know here kind of like how this all started?
Okay. Well, the Monkees is a 1960s fictitious rock group that started as a TV show. Four guys were invited to be a part of this TV show, and then what happened is they actually became an actual music group. They recorded songs and they became hugely popular. They were basically America's answer to the Beatles at the time. And so as a result, when I was a child, I watched their TV show. I fell in love with the show because it was a very funny show, and it was kind of my first exposure to very lighthearted rock and roll, I guess if you want to say it. And I bought their records and continued to listen to them on cassettes and CDs and you name it. It just got more and more. Went to their concerts, went to their 80s reunion, 90s reunion, and their 50th year reunion. And so been a big fan. I've met all four of the Monkees. I've actually shared the gospel with all of them. My Twitter account and Instagram account name is Monkee Pastor, Monkeepastor. So I've just been a big fan. I think a big part of it's been my childhood, my interest in music, and also just the fact that I've really enjoyed their music.
And we actually went to a concert together.
We did.
I'm very thankful for that.
2013, we went down together, yes.
I got to experience a real live Monkees concert.
You did.
That was so fun. I'm very thankful you invited me to that.
It wasn't bad, right?
It was great. You know what's funny is that I watched that show too when I was a kid.
Okay.
I watched the show. So my brother and I, we had the cassette tape. And so...
if you remember, Mickey Dolenz walked by us.
Yes. I remember I shook his hand.
Yes.
I shook his hand.
That was funny.
Pastor Ben, you've been an Asian American pastor for a long time. You are now teaching full-time academics here at Talbot School of Theology. We kind of call you the pastor to pastors. We all kind of come to you for wisdom and knowledge, something that I'm so thankful for, that I can still kind of eat lunch with you. It's so great. I wanted to ask you, concerning we talked about a little bit today during lunchtime, what do you think are some areas of self-awareness that might be some places that Asian American pastors can develop more? Some areas of self-awareness that you would maybe advise to kind of make us be more aware about, that we don't know about, just because of how we were raised or just even our experience in church ministry?
Yeah. Well, I'd answer that question in two ways. I'd say we need more EQ, generally, emotional quotient. And the second aspect is we need more CQ, which is cultural quotient. So let me explain both of those to you. I think all pastors, well, no matter what ethnicity, Caucasian or Asian or African American, I think the whole area of being able to connect with people, to enter into their pain, ask them to celebrate with their joys, all of those are important for us because as we shepherd them, that's our main priority as pastors, is to care for their hearts and to care for their needs and their families and so forth. If you can't feel what they feel, then you won't be able to really be effective. And so I think that's something that we need to develop. I know I'm trying to help my students here at Talbot to develop more of an EQ so that they would be able to shepherd more effectively. The CQ part is a more recent thing, the cultural quotient, where an awareness of the blending of whether it be honor and shame culture or Confucianism or Buddhism, which is all syncretistically put into our Asian Americanness, knowing the history and origins of those things will give us not only a greater clarity, but an understanding of where people are coming from, largely due to their family origin, as they were raised in the home a certain way, reinforced by their home church. They have done certain things that are typically Asian. It's not a right or wrong category. I want to be clear on that. It's just a different category. The illustration I often give is in America, if you want to call an emergency, you dial 911. In Korea, you dial 119. Is it right or wrong? No, it's just a different configuration of numbers. And so that's where the East versus the West are different from one another. So those are two of the things that I think pastors need to have a better awareness of, both in terms of their emotion and their culture, that will help them be more effective ultimately as pastors.
No, I get really excited to do these interviews because I get to learn. This is really one of the main pieces for me. I'm so excited to learn. When you say that, now correct me if I'm wrong, our Asian culture is an honor shame culture. So it's kind of hard to develop that because you have to share a lot about, self-awareness. Let's say you have a problem with something, it's very hard for you to share. So how do we best do that? What do you suggest are the steps to take on how we could develop this better?
I think that you have to start with small baby steps. Find people that you trust, people that you know you can share something even shameful, and they would be careful not to share that with others. Having trusted confidants. For me, it's my spouse. I have a small circle of friends, both colleagues here at Talbot and pastor friends that I can share anything with without any shame. I think that will help you to get acclimated to be able to share a few more things that you would do in a public venue. For example, I've shared things on the pulpit. I shared how I got fired from my first ministry. I've shared how I failed my comps for my THM program. And those could be particularly shameful things, but now I can share them openly because I think I've had that stepping stone opportunity to share with a few people, and they affirmed me and accepted me, and then as a result now I can share that story publicly, which is actually ministered to a lot of people if they know that, wow, if I as the pastor or professor have failed in areas, that's okay. And I actually often share a statement from Erwin Lutzer. He would say, failure is the back door to success. And I fully agree with that. But when we don't share our failures, then essentially we can't have future success because there's nothing to learn from. And so I think it's important for us to have more of an openness. And this is where the blend of an Asian American will allow to take the best of both cultures, from the Asian culture, which has honor, and the American culture, which maybe has no shame, and put it together so that we can share in a more refined way for our contingency, which are Asian American millennials and centennials and so forth.
I know a lot of us, we like to have time with you because we love to, you're one of the people that we like to share with. We like to get advice from you and wisdom. What are the consistent things that you're always kind of hearing about, like what we struggle with when we share with you? Like, what's that consistent thing that keeps on coming? Is it burnout? Is it like just we're not ourselves, working on our own kind of spiritual disciplines?
How long is this video scheduled for, John? I mean, we could do a mini series on this. A lot of it I can't share specifically, but let me say generally, a lot of them are relational tensions, personal tensions, issues relating to if I'm in the right spot, calling, is this what God wants me to do? And I think the common core for all of this, John, is there's not been people who speak into their lives that give much affirmation for this. I think our Asian culture in general has been a very non-verbal culture where we affirm with action, whereas the American Western side wants to hear it through words. And so as an Asian American, if we can do both the action, which Asians are very strong in, and words, which maybe Westerners are more strong in, and blend that together, it's not an either or, but it's a both and. I find myself having been, grown up in the white church for 25 years and now been in the Korean church for 30 years, I think I'm starting to find that sweet spot of a blend. And so I will affirm with actions, usually buying a meal for someone. That's one way that I show my care for people. But I will actually tell people very verbally. For example, we had a guy at our church who is just starting to give the announcements on Sunday. He did a fantastic job. And I told him, I went up to him right afterwards in front of all these friends of his, and I said, you did an outstanding job in sharing the announcements today. And he really did. I wasn't just speaking this to butter him up. I really meant it. And I'm not sure, he didn't know what to do with that. So I'm not sure if he had been used to receiving that kind of public verbal affirmation. So these are things that I think all of us can and hopefully should do if we want to continue to give grace to those who hear. Ephesians 4:29, great passage that talks about wholesome words proceeding from our mouth, that it will give edification to those who hear, that it may give grace at the moment for those who hear it.
You know, this is a good segue for the next question, which is, you talked about kind of like the span of ministry there. You've kind of are considered like one of the OG original EM pastors.
I'm old, yes.
I didn't say that, you did. But you are
ancient of days.
a seasoned veteran, but that's golden. You've got to experience and observe how the church has progressed, especially kind of in our world, this EM kind of model. In your experience and what you have observed in the past 20 years, what are some of the good things that are still happening today in the Asian American church? And what are some of the areas that you feel like kind of still needs more focus and more attention?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think overall we're getting better. We're still learning the dance of generational awkwardness. We don't have it down yet, but we still keep stepping on each other's toes at times. I think the new emergent factor that was not so prevalent 20 years ago was the 1.5 generation. It was usually 1.0 and then their kids were the 2.0. Now 1.5 generation is becoming more prominent, and I often liken it to the middle child syndrome, where oftentimes the youngest is spoiled, the oldest is privileged, the middle child gets ignored. And if you've ever talked to middle children, they're not the happiest campers around. So I think generationally we're seeing that with 1.5 in Korean churches in particular. And I think what I hope will happen is that there'll be a better understanding between all the different point generations. I'm hoping that will be better done. I think communication is still lacking. I think misunderstandings are still there. And I think there's some suspicion on some people's parts of first to second generation and second to first generation and every generation in between. I'm hoping and praying that we are more gracious to one another, and I think in some ways we are. I'm hoping for more partnerships to happen. But again, I think when you bring in different people from like Korea, understanding their context, they don't realize or maybe understand the importance of English ministries. Rightfully so, they're from Korea. So I think there can lead to a lot of misunderstandings, and it has led to some departures for some English ministries, which in my heart is very heartbreaking and unfortunate. So I hope that we can regroup. One of the big things that's happened now that was not present 20 years ago is a lot of independent Asian American and Korean American churches. I think that's a plus. I just hope and pray we do it better in the future. So the verdict's still out there, John. I don't sure. Not enough time has passed yet for us to say yes or no on that one.
You know a lot of people who are hurt, who've been hurt by the past. They are very angry. What would you say to encourage them? They're like very angry people. They kind of don't want to work with anyone.
Yeah.
How would you encourage them?
One word: counseling. I went through that too. I was fired on Christmas Sunday after 15 years at a Korean church. It was shocking to me. I had to go into therapy. I cursed the Korean church, specifically Presbyterian elders. But I realized that that was unfair because I had stereotyped all Korean Presbyterian elders saying that way, and realistically I had not met them all. I only met a few. And then it's interesting, the next church I went to, the experience was radically different. It was qualitatively much better. These were loving, godly elders. And so I've come to realize my own short-sightedness and I guess stereotyping. And I realized that a lot of it is my responsibility. If I've been hurt, I can't just stay hurt. I need to take care of that because it's like a wounded animal. You want that animal to get healed. And if the animal is still wounded, then that kind of person or animal will wound other people. And I think that's what happens sometimes when you have a hurt. So the best thing you could do is get some healing. And I strongly believe in counseling. I think it's necessary. I think it's helpful. I recommend it to all people. I'd love to get counseling myself. So I think that's the main thing that would be recommended. And then from there, I just be with good friends who will speak truth and life into your own heart, into your own calling, we need to have friends who will be there to lift us up. Ecclesiastes 4:9, two are better than one. If one falls, there's someone there to hold you up. So I truly believe in that.
Some great knowledge there, great wisdom as always. Pastor Ben, you're the teaching pastor at New Life Vision, or the EM pastor? What is it?
Teaching pastor.
The teaching
at New
pastor
Life
at
Vision Church.
New Life Vision Church. We got Easter coming up. Anything coming up after Easter at your church? Any kind of event or some kind of thing that you guys got going on?
Oh, well, a number of things. We have our first EM missions trip. We're going to go to Thailand this summer. That's going to be a first. We teach a theology class. It'll be right after Easter. I'm teaching through Grudem's Christian beliefs. So every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 4, I teach systematic theology. So I'll be teaching Christology next. We have a number of things. We have membership classes that will be starting up in the fall. And we have a number of things planned. I mean, it's pretty new for me because I've only been there maybe a year and 3 months officially. So it's all brand new. And we have a good group, and really thankful for our church, and looking forward to just really building some infrastructure and helping us to go deep with our ministry.
That sounds great. That sounds great. New Life Vision Church, I'm going to put the link down below, all right? Check out their website. They got this pretty cool facility, right, that you guys just launched.
Wonderful.
I'm excited to visit. I want to visit soon. But thank you so much, Pastor Ben.
All right,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Blessings.